is 8 something in the morning. 8:40. Yes, thank you. 8:40. Wait, is it 8:40?
Is it really?
Oh, 8:13. My watch says 8:13.
Oh, maybe it said 8:14.
Yeah, okay. It's 8:13 in the morning. Oh, okay. That is perfectly fine. Thank you. It is early. I have been awake since 6. There was a bachelor party happening next door, so that was pleasant. I realized that I forgot to talk about my dinner last night. It tasted very good. It was the curry penis. I still don't know how to pronounce it, but it was nice. It was spicy. It was much better than the sample that the chef gave me. Now the sun is in my face. I am on a bus. We are headed to the Genesee Country Colonial Museum. That is probably not the accurate name of this place that we're going to, but close enough. And I will check in later. Alright, so we are at the Genesee Country Village Museum. Right now there's really nothing going on. We're just hanging out here until that tour actually starts. We are in a room. There are pictures on the walls. I'll turn the camera. All these people here. And yeah, I don't know. It's running a little late, but that's okay. I'll check in later. We're on a trolley right now. There's a bench on either side.
It seemed like it was long.
There are some buildings around us. There's a gazebo looking thing out
Okay,
there.
yes. Yeah, so our Genesee is
It is Genesee.
Genesee.
Oh,
Bears.
it is.
2 grizzly bears. And we also have some sculptures of turkeys. One year our turkeys in the village escaped from their coop and they came up here and were walking around the turkey sculptures. So quite comical to see.
Did you get a picture and put it on your brochure?
It wasn't on our brochure, but we did get a picture of it, which we shared at our end of season party with all the staff.
Oh, taking pictures. So I've seen people, I haven't used Ira yet.
They can take a picture with your phone's camera very easily.
Right.
Yeah, they've done that with me before.
I know they're offering free Ira while you're here.
Yeah, it's at the convention center in both hotels.
Okay, so here at our first stop,
you can't use it outside the hotel?
No,
a
not
little
for
bit more
free.
introduction to the village. So on my left side, we're looking over a big circular meadow, our great meadow. In the center, we have a large white gazebo or bandstand, which we sometimes have musicians up on. It gives you a good view of the whole meadow. On the far left, up on top of the hill, is one of our restaurants, the Depot, and it is an old train depot. Mr. Whaley his 2 passions were historic architecture and historic sporting art, so things having to do with hunting. We currently have an exhibit in there, Working Like a Dog, which is perfect for all of your lovely friends here. Just showing ways that dogs worked historically, all the different things that they did, and how dogs work now. On the other side of the art gallery is our fashion exhibit. Now, all of our docents in the museum are in historic attire, including myself. I am wearing about 1815, so if anybody's familiar with Jane Austen, it's about her time period. I am wearing a linen dress. It is a gray. It has black and yellow little stripes running through it. And it's very cool because it's linen, so it's great for a hot day. The waistline is just under my bust, and then the skirt is long and straight and goes all the way down to about 2 inches above the floor. I have on my head a day cap, also made out of linen. It's white linen, and this protects my hair. So like yesterday when I was working around the fires, it keeps that soot and the smoke out of my hair, keeps it clean longer.
Do you look like a Dutch housewife?
Not quite. It's a little bit of a different style. I also have a sunbonnet for when I am outside off the trolley. It has a very deep brim that extends maybe 2 or 3 inches past my face, and a curtain which is along the neck and goes down about 12 or 14 inches to cover my shoulders and my neck, so I will not get a sunburn.
Good.
And this is pretty typical day wear, be good for working in, and that's what we really show at this village. We do have some wealthier houses, but a lot of what we have was average working class families, because that's a lot of what was around here. Back to the art gallery and our fashion exhibit, that is one of the things that we use to study the original garments in order to pattern our own and figure out what we should be wearing. All of the clothes in the art gallery are again from this New York area, so we can be really sure that it is right for what we should be wearing. The exhibit right now is about the 1850s, following Queen Victoria. We've got the Victoria series playing on TV, if anybody's watched it. And she started in the 1840s, so we did that last year. This year we've moved ahead into the 1850s. What will be passing ahead of us is our exhibition barn and our carriage museum. We use those for weddings, we have receptions there, we have lunches there when we've got lots of school kids in the spring and the fall. During October, when we do our agricultural fair, those will be full of animals and exhibits. They kind of get used for a variety of everything. We'll continue on around the circle and then into the village. To my left is our first building, the Quaker Meeting House. What is of note about this building is that it has 2 doors. And we often like to have people guess, why would there be 2 doors to get into a Quaker Meeting House?
Men on one side, women on the other.
Yes, but not all of the time. So what's so cool about the Quakers is that they were really one of the most, I'd say, progressive or liberal groups of the time. This, as their meeting house, would be a place of worship, would be their church, but also where they would meet for their town meetings and their community meetings. If they were having church here, men and women could sit together. It was families, it was very congregational. The time when they would split it up is when they were having governmental meetings or community meetings. And of course that makes us all think, oh, it must be because the women couldn't vote, so they had to sit on one side. Quakers are the exact opposite. They wanted the women to have a voice in their community.
Good.
So they split them up because they felt that if you were sitting next to your father or next to your husband, you might be more influenced by him or felt that you had to vote in the same way as he did. So they would split men and women so that everybody could feel comfortable having a voice of their own. So then down to my right, looking down the hill, we have our schoolhouse, and it is a bright red little building, which is very typical. We always think of a little red schoolhouse. Why red? Why did that become common? Any guesses?
Stand out.
Potentially, especially in a New York winter when there's blizzards. The real reason is that red was the cheapest paint. They basically just made it from rust.
There you go.
And so the schoolhouses were usually funded by taxpayers' dollars. So if your money is going into funding the public school or the toll house or your barn, whatever it is, you're going to use the cheapest paint.
That's right.
So that's why schoolhouses are often red. The toll house was red. We think of barns as being red because it was the cheapest one. This schoolhouse can hold about 40 to 50 students if you really cram them in. But because it was built in the early 1820s, there wasn't a lot of school laws or school regulations. You may have 10 kids on one day and you may have 50 the next. There's one teacher for all of the ages, and the youngest kid recorded was 5 years old. The oldest, I think, was maybe 12 or 13. They didn't do grades quite the same way that we do now. It was more just levels that you were working through. And if you worked through the level very quickly, you would progress. And if you didn't, then you would stay behind. So you have different ages and different grades, per se. As I said, this was pioneer territory, so many people wouldn't even send their kids to school because they didn't need it to survive in the frontier. It's more important in the frontier to be working in the field so that you have food next year than it is to learn at school. They did change the semesters, I guess you could say, to adapt to that. So they would have a winter semester and a summer semester, so that the entire family was at home in spring and fall to help with the planting and the harvesting. We've got 3 really wealthy families in the village, and the McKays are one of them. Mr. McKay was actually from Pennsylvania. His parents came from Scotland after the English took over Scotland and banned all of the clan activities. A lot of Scots came to America to be able to continue to live the life that they wanted, and his parents were some of them. But he grew up on a farm. His father died, and the farm could not support him and all of his siblings anymore. So he and his older brother moved up to New York when he was a teenager, and he worked for 10 years as a carpenter to save up enough money. And with that money, he bought the second grist mill west of the Genesee River, which meant that he got all of the business of the new pioneers who were coming into the area.
How are these buildings moved?
By truck.
Piece by piece, or
Usually
were they
in about half. So some of them were upstairs and downstairs taken apart. Some of them were split down the center and then put on big trucks. The McKay's house was brought over the fields because it was so close. It was like 3 miles away in Caledonia. One of the houses, the Livingston Backus house, which we'll drive past the back of later today, that one was actually purchased by an individual owner before the museum started because the expressway was being put through Rochester. He didn't want to see it torn down. So he bought it and had it dismantled and put in 3 or 4 warehouses all around Rochester until he heard about this place and then donated it. And that was about 16 years, I believe, that it had been sitting in a warehouse. Down on my right, this is the house that I was working in yesterday. So directly in front of me down the hill, there's a very small log structure, maybe 10 by 10, maybe at best. And that could have been a pioneer's first house when they moved out to the area. You have your wagon full of stuff, you have your family, you've been traveling for maybe a couple weeks, you're finally there, you just need a roof over your head. So that may have been their first house. Then to the right of that is a slightly larger log structure. That one's maybe 20 by 20, and it is 2 stories. The upstairs was mostly used for storage, not really living space, but it does have a second level. Common thing to do, not only as beer, but also as medicine. Hops were used medicinally, and sometimes in cooking. They have a very calming effect, so that was one of the ways they were used medicinally. So they made it into beer, and that bit of fermentation and the heating up that they did in the process killed those germs, unbeknownst to them, and then it was healthy to drink. It was a much lower alcohol content than what we tend to drink now, though. So it was something that you were drinking every day at most of your meals, and that even kids could be having without having an issue. Plus, it's full of calories, so it keeps you going. I really feel like beer is drinking bread, and that's kind of what it is. Yes.
What's this?
So the hops, like, it's really tall compared to the corn. Is that normal?
Yes. So they're like peas in that they're on vines and they grow upwards.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's this? Like this?
And then there's the
consuming of this
corn.
house?
because
This
for the
is
stuff
so
with the
cool.
cobalt,
It's
the
a
salt
mug.
glaze,
It's
that actually
pottery.
is put on
It's
while
white.
it's being fired. You
And there's a
salt onto the
blue
fire, and it chemically
flower painted on one
creates the
side.
glaze on the outside.
Okay, so we are at some sort of pavilion. There are a lot of tables and chairs around. People sitting. It's covered. And then to our left, there's a field and some other structure. I believe that we're going to be having some snacks, which is very exciting because I love food. This is strawberry shrub. It is a little drink made with fruit, vinegar, and sugar, and sometimes herbs, and it is non-alcoholic, and apparently you either like it or hate it. There is no in between. Okay, the shrub smells like vinegar. Yeah, let's taste it.
Will you like it or will you just taste it to see if you like it?
No, but we'll know if you like it.
Oh,
Ooh, it's very, very sweet. I can't really taste the I mainly taste the sugar with like a little bit of the strawberry. Yeah, I taste the strawberry and the sugar. I don't really taste any of the vinegar, which is weird because it smells like vinegar.
And that's good to know. 'Cause
Yeah.
I like vinegar mixed with stuff, but I don't just like, you know, really strong vinegar.
Yeah, same.
No.
Yeah, not bad. The second sip that I had a little bit more of a vinegar aftertaste to it, but
isn't that nice, right?
yeah.
Know that
Shrub isn't terrible. Good to know. This is a rosewater and currant tea cake. It looks like a little
It
cookie.
tastes like a fancy. It looks and tastes like, I don't know what color it is, but it's shaped like a vanilla wafer, and it's
It
similar to
is,
a wafer, but softer.
It looks like vanilla. Like it looks like a chocolate chip cookie visually. If that makes sense.
It's delicious.
current was
Try
one of
this
the
cookie.
But they're big cookies.
Yeah, I've had them in like things like this. I've never ate
So-
currant, but I've had them chopped.
The tea cake is pretty good. It's soft. It's not, you know, like a hard chewy cookie, which
No,
makes
it's
sense.
It would go nice with a cup of tea.
It would go nice with a cup of tea. I want tea now.
Me too.
It has good flavors to it. It's
Very
not
flavors.
super bitter. I don't know what rose water tastes like, but the currants aren't that bad. I like it.
Yeah, very good.
Those are very pretty rose petals.
Aren't they?
They smell really good. Thank you.
This is the flavoring in the tea cake.
Yeah.
And also, this is the petal of the apothecary rose, Rosa gallica, which the rose water is made out of.
Oh, nice.
They're beautiful. They're bright pink. Yes, so that's rose water? Yes. It definitely smells like roses, like we would expect.
But it does smell medicinal as well. Because
Yeah.
Here's the bottle.
Yeah, it's a nice smell.
it's not
Oh wow, yeah, that is a strong smell.
Yeah.
I see what you mean about the medicinal smell.
Yeah,
too,
right,
yeah.
right.
These are the gardens.
They have their own garden house, just a fancy shed really to host parties in.
Yeah, it is basically a fancy shed. Hey guys, it's Diana in the future. I am home at this point in time. I realized when editing this video that it is very long. So what I'm gonna do is split it into 2 parts. So this is part 1 of day 3 with the Genesee Country Museum, and then part 2 will be coming out after this with the afternoon stuff. We're gonna be trying some snacks and having lunch and doing the art gallery, and then a little cruise down the Erie Canal on the Colonial Belle boat, ship, whatever. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you didn't, I can't tell you what to do, but I'll see you next time. Bye.